The growing gang problem isn't limited to big cities like Calgary. A number of smaller Alberta communities are also dealing with violent gangs right now. Reporter Aaron Collins was granted rare access to 2 Aboriginal reserves, and in this special report, Aaron tells us about the gang members' blatant disrespect for the law.
Constable Amber McKay has patrolled these dusty gravel roads for 6 years. Her beat on the Eden Valley Reserve is tucked in the foothills of the Rockies, about an hour southwest of Calgary's busy streets. But she sees more than just picturesque landscapes from her cruiser.
There's assaults. Structure fires are the biggest thing, and vandalisms of the buildings out there.
Southern Alberta's growing gang problem certainly isn't limited to its cities. Signs of it are popping up everywhere, even here on the Eden Valley Reserve. This reserve is small, and so far, so is its gang problem. The seeds of organized crime have been planted here, but they've yet to grow. At the local school, the philosophy is simple: keep the kids busy, and they'll stay away from gangs.
Hopefully, we can deal with the issues at hand, so that they don't grow, and it's something that in 10 years from now that has been neglected and it's become a huge problem.
It's easy for Shade to see what can happen when gangs are allowed to grow. He points to the Hobbema Reserve in central Alberta and to his home. The gang problem is still small in Eden Valley, but just an hour and a half down the road here in Standoff on Canada's largest reserve, that problem is growing much larger. More than 2,000 band members live here in the town of Standoff, and it's up to Constable Chris Wynn and the 32 other members of the band police to keep the peace.
Yes.
It's a job that increasingly involves dealing with gang members.
We have come into contact with groups from the Red Alert gang, as well as Manitoba Warriors, even up to the Hells Angels. We've had some members come through.
Those larger, more organized gangs come here to recruit soldiers, and because its location along Highway 2 puts the reserve in the middle of a pipeline for contraband that runs from Calgary to the U.S. border. And those potential recruits are leaving their mark here.
So as you can see here, this is a typical tagging in this community. The Bloods are a prevalent group that a lot of the youth follow. And the newest faction is the Blood Killers, the BKs, that have shown up, and as you can see, they're tagging each other out.
Many of the homes that line the streets of Standoff have also been touched by gangs. Some are either flop pads or drug houses used by gang members. This is one of them, a house Constable Wynn and his fellow officers have been to before.
We're at a store, one of the local stores that sells pop and chips, any kind of like the local amenities that the community members might need. Unfortunately, this one also happens to be a place that has been targeted by us in the past for controlled substances.
Inside, empty racks line the walls and the smell of marijuana hangs heavily in the air. Pot is still the big drug here, but meth and crack use is on the rise.
Typical door lock mechanism for a house in this community. Unfortunately, the doors are damaged from other criminal activity or sometimes from us making an entry, and the doors just don't close properly anymore, so they prop it open or prop it closed and reinforce it with large 2x4s.
Across town, many of the youth most at risk of joining a gang are taking exams at the Kainai Alternative School. Vicki Fox has been teaching on the Blood Reserve for nearly 4 decades. She says her job gets harder as gangs make inroads on the reserve and into her school.
This one boy had 14 burns on one arm. And we said, I want to swear right now, what the heck is going on? But when I accidentally burned myself, give excuses, only to find out that that was an initiation, one of the initiations going on, especially. Well, this is on a Thursday, and a Monday morning we got 4 other students walking in with the same burns. Yeah, something's going on, big time.
She says many students feel pressured into joining a gang for protection, something grade 11 student Tyrus Oldshoes has so far avoided.
It's like a family, I guess, because everyone got your back, and they tell you stuff to do, and you have to do it, or you're gonna get hurt or something.
What kind of stuff?
It's like you know, steal stuff, like beat up people and like stab them too, like do whatever they say.
Old Shoes says for many young people, gangs are attractive simply because there isn't much else to do.
I remember when I was like 12, 13, they used to have a recreation, bring us up like skiing and bring us to Calgary or bring us swimming or to the show just to get us out of here.
Giving kids at risk of joining gangs something else to do isn't a new idea, and it's a strategy that may already be working up the road in Eden Valley. Aaron Collins, CBC News on the Blood Reserve.
And last night, we wanted to know if you're worried about the growing gang violence in our city. 65% of you say yes, 29% say no, and the other 6% say they're only concerned after a high-profile crime. We got almost 700 responses, and that question will remain on our website all week if you hadn't had a chance to vote yet. And coming up tomorrow night in our week-long series on gangs, Aaron Collins tells us how local gangs are arming themselves. He follows the trail of guns bought in the U.S. and smuggled across the border into the Calgary area. On Thursday night, we'll have a reality check for you, comparing Calgary's gang problem to the challenges in other Canadian cities. And on Friday night, a Calgary television first. We bring all of the major players in the justice system together to talk about the gang problem. We'll hear from Calgary's police chief, the provincial justice minister, and one of Alberta's